The traces, they will give us the connections of individual points in the reservoir, lay out the geometry of the reservoir, and also tell us how important the communication parts in the reservoir is. And the way we used it in this particular case was that there was a production well where we had water coming in. We were able to tell the client this water came from one specific source, which was different from what they thought. And it meant there was part of the reservoir that had not been properly swept by the injected water. This was a North Sea reservoir, so one of the large operators in Norway. A fairly standard reservoir, sandstone reservoir. The production strategy is to inject water in order to maintain the pressure. And whenever the water breaks through in different wells, it's interesting to know that you are using your water resources in a good way and pushing the oil in front of the water. Typically, an oil company will have a reservoir model that captures the current knowledge about the subsurface. And when you bring in a new set of data like tracer data, the tracer data will reveal whether or not that model is correct or not. And in this particular case, the model was wrong in part of the reservoir, and that mistake was directly proven from the traces. The eureka moment was when we found out original ideas about the reservoirs was wrong, and traces proved that the source of the water was actually from a different place in the reservoir. The original ideas of the reservoir are not necessarily wrong. They are true with the given data set that you have. So when you bring in new data like tracer data, and that reveals that there is something that you misunderstood about the reservoir, and that brings in knowledge that makes you understand new features in the reservoir, that's a really good feeling. If you don't use tracers, you will not have full control on where the flows are going, and there could be parts of the reservoir that has not been properly swept. And in this particular case, we discovered one of these unswept areas by use of tracers. So by using tracers, we reduced the risk of losing out on oil production in this particular field.